Welcome to my video on spoilers from War of the Spark. I'm not going to do the regular cover all the spoilers because anyone can go look them up, but I'm going to give some thoughts on certain cards that I find very interesting. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. We'll get right into it, and the first one here that I brought up is Dread Horde Butcher. This is a black-red creature zombie warrior with haste. It's a 1/1. When it deals combat damage to a player or planeswalker, put a 1/1 counter on Death Horde Butcher. When it dies, it deals damage equal to its power to any target. So, if there's a way to get this beefed up right away to, say, a 10/10, you can turn around and possibly kill someone with it. Or a 5/5, you swing for 5, and then maybe do more damage. Who knows? But so far, if you bring up cards like Thud and Giant Growth, which was just spoiled, you've got Giant Growth giving it +3/+3, so then making it a 4/4. Yes, you're in 3 colors, but right now color fixing's not an issue. And Thud, you sacrifice the creature afterwards, so when you sacrifice it, it deals however much damage, which would be 4. And then it would deal an additional 4 because it deals that much power. So you swing for 4, you sacrifice it for 4, and then you deal 4. So that's 12 points of damage right there off 4 mana. So the possibilities of that is pretty huge. That's just one thing that I've seen so far. The next card that I have brought up here is Paradise Druid. Now, there was lots of speculation on this when it was spoiled. The name, of course, but not the card. Paradise Druid is a 1 green and 1 generic, 2/1 Elf Druid. As long as it remains untapped, it has hexproof. So it's a mana dork that cannot be target of your opponent's spells. And it makes 1 of any color. This being a 2 mana dork, because of that, it's not going to skyrocket up in price or anything like that. But the closest thing that, when we saw it originally, a lot of people were thinking Birds of Paradise, which is a 1 mana 0/1 creature with flying that makes 1 mana of any color. So this is probably the closest rendition to something. With this card, it was one of those cards that caught my eye, and it is nice to see that they're attempting new things. Having a hexproof mana dork, one that's not going to go away very quickly or very easily, is really nice. The next card that I have is Rollisk Apex Hybrid. This is a 2 green, 1 blue, and 2 generic legendary creature human mutant. It's got flying and trample because, trample on a flying creature is a big thing nowadays. When it enters the battlefield, you put 2 1/1 counters on another target creature you control. When it dies, you proliferate, and then you proliferate again. So proliferate is choose any number of permanents and or players and give each another counter of each kind already there, then do it again. This includes planeswalkers, this includes those counters that you just put down on another creature. The ideas of this is quite high. There's an idea that this is going to be something good. It's a 5 mana, unfortunately, so it's not huge, but it's just something that's kind of catching my eye, and we'll see where it lands on the big scheme of things. The next one that I got brought up here is something we desperately needed in the standard meta with Kaya. Bane of the Dead. This is one of the uncommon planeswalkers. It's 3 black or white hybrid mana and 3 generic. It is a 6 casted planeswalker, but she does come in with 7 loyalty, so that extra loyalty may make things very good. You -3, you can exile a creature, but her Anthem style effect, your opponent's impermanents your opponent controls with hexproof can be the target of spells and abilities you control as though they didn't have hexproof. So the one thing that does come to mind right away is Carnage Tyrant, being something that can be targeted by this card in itself is huge. A lot of times you're looking at a board wipe, which is 4 to 5 mana. You're looking at the Eldest Reborn to try and get rid of the Carnage Tyrant, getting around the hexproof benefit that it has. But this card here will allow you just to target it right up, and it's 6 mana. She comes in, and then you can exile it right away. So, kinda a bit of trade-off with that, which I think will make it a little bit more playable, especially in the black-white colors, and we already have an Esper Control deck that this can pretty much slide right into, making things a lot more stable in that deck. The next one that I have up on my list, it's in another language, but it is the Dreadhorde Anarchist. This is a 1 red and 1 generic zombie wizard with trample. It comes into play as a 1/3. Now, when it attacks, you may cast target instant or sorcery card with converted mana cost less than or equal to Dreadhorde Anarchist power from your graveyard without paying its mana cost. If that card would be put into your graveyard this turn, exile it instead. So once again, we do have the possibilities with Thud and Giant Growth, so maybe this goes in with those other cards again. This is another possible benefit. You can Giant Growth it before attack, then you can cast a forecasted spell for free, which can make things a lot more. Forecasted or less is pretty crazy when everything is said and done. Then there is Vivian, Champion of the Wild. She's, for a 3 mana rare 4 loyalty planeswalker, giving all your creature spells flash is pretty crazy. Makes me think of Collected Company once again, with the instant ability of bringing in those cards off the top of your deck. Her +1 ability being until end of turn, up to 1 target creature gains vigilance and reach. So until your next turn is really nice, because then you can use it as a defender, and you can attack with it, so it's that double jeopardy, so that way she protects herself at the same time. Her -2 is look at the top 3 cards of your library, exile 1 face down, put the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. For as long as it remains exiled, you may look at that card and you may cast it if it's a creature card. So if you want to get rid of some cards, that you can use this to get a land out of your deck to shorten your deck quite a bit. The creature cards, now you can cast it anytime, and it's no longer in your library. It's in a hidden zone that your opponent can't even do anything with. The best chance they have there is that they can counter it. You do this with the Carnage Tyrant, and then you sit on it until you have the mana for it. That's pretty crazy. That's really nice, and you can maybe use it as a snap, jump it into play, so it's something that's going to really take effect there. Then I have Nissa, who shakes the world. When she's a 2 green, 3 generic, whenever you tap a forest for mana, add an additional green mana. So now your forest tapped for 2. This also includes your shock lands, because they have the subtype forest. It's not basic forest here, it's just forest. So with the shock lands currently in standard, this card could be something that slides into any green-based deck, just so you have that extra mana. Yes, she is 5, but you can get to that 5 mana within a couple turns of the start of the game. Her +1 is put 3 1/1 counters on up to one target non-creature land you control. Untap it, it becomes a 0/0 elemental creature with vigilance and haste. And it's still a land. So she's animating your lands. There might be a Sylvan Awakening deck in the future with this. This will have to run it very quickly. With her 5 loyalty that she comes in, it's a -8 to get an emblem. This is the only card so far with an emblem. And it is lands you control have indestructible. Search your library for any number of forest cards, put them into play tapped, then shuffle your library. This on top of Vivian's current emblem, where it's giving +2/+2 vigilance and indestructible and trample, could be a little crazy. It's a big threat. Green could be a very, very fast, stompy sort of scenario. We don't know where it's going to land yet. Then I have Karn, the Great Creator. 4 generic mana. Activated abilities of artifacts your opponents control can't be activated. So this is going to be a shutdown for like the Temporal Gate, other artifacts like the Amber, maybe? I don't really see that being an issue. You do have the Fountains. They won't be able to find a card. We don't know what there's going to be yet for all the artifacts in this set, and there is one here in particular that this card will be very useful against. +1, until your next turn, up to one target non-creature artifact becomes an artifact creature with power and toughness equal to its converted mana cost. So any artifact you have on the field, you can now make it. Say you have a 10 casted artifact, now you have a 10/10 until your next turn. So attack and defense is really nice on that. Then the -2, you may choose an artifact card you own from outside the game, or exile. Reveal that card and add it to your hand. This is a -2 on a 5 for 4. That is insane. This card is going to be absolutely nuts. The fact that you can tutor up a artifact the second it hits the board that you have outside the game is insane. Or something that's in exile. So if they've gotten rid of something, this is a backup plan. Oh, that's going to be insane. On with this, we have Nicobolus, Dragon God. He's a legendary planeswalker, Nicobolus. He has the loyalty abilities of all other planeswalkers on the battlefield. This is going to be an insane card. In this set, because it's highly likely someone else is going to have a planeswalker on board, he's going to be crazy, and anyone that plays the Grixis EDH deck, our commander deck, this is going to be another one of those cards that just stands out in that deck, especially when you're in a multiplayer game. There's so much that this card can do. His +1 is you draw a card, each opponent exiles a card from their hand or a permanent they control. So this is kind of a take on Teferi's emblem with the draw card, but Teferi untaps 2 lands, and it's his emblem that gets rid of a permanent. So this is kind of a souped up Teferi in that sense. -3 is destroy target creature or planeswalker. Well, geez, that'll take care of any other threats on the board for planeswalkers. And -H, each opponent who doesn't control a legendary creature or planeswalker loses the game. This alt right now is not that crazy. Once the sets kind of move around a little bit more, this will be more prominent. Because of this being such a big set of planeswalkers, it's not going to be that insane for an alt. Next one that I drew up is, of course, the new Teferi card, Teferi Time Raveler. He's 1 blue, 1 white, and a generic. Each opponent can cast spells only anytime they can cast a sorcery. His +1 until your next turn cast sorceries if they had flash. Sorceries are sorceries for a reason. Giving them all flash can be a little problematic for a lot of people, especially when your opponent maybe can't react to them, which is going to be insane. This, with the current Teferi that's in Standard, is going to be something that needs to be dealt with right away. He's 3 mana, so what's out there that's 3 mana that gets rid of the Planeswalker right now? Because right now I'm thinking 4 mana. He's a 4 loyalty, so even if you hit him with a lightning bolt or a lightning strike, that's only 3 damage. Yeah, there's probably a problem dealing with this card, because even Ixalan's Binding, you have the Conclave enchantment but you have to have creatures to be able to cast that early. Yeah, there's not much that's going to be able to deal with this rare right off the bat. His -3 is return up to 1 target artifact, creature, or enchantment to its owner's hand, then draw a card. So if you've got a reoccurring effect like Dovin's Acuity, that enchantment, you can bring it back to your hand without having to cast a spell. Then you draw a card, so a little bit of value there. Or if there's something on the board that's a problem and you need to bounce it back, you can do it. I do like that as a flash ability instead of it being a -3 on a Planeswalker, because Planeswalker abilities are only done on your turn. Unlike where Blink of the Eye, you can do it at any time and you have the option to draw that card. So, and the last couple cards here, we of course have Tezzeret, Master of the Bridge. This card is a mistake. Much like similar to Nexus of Fate, this is your new Buy a Box promo. He is 4 generic, a blue, and a black. So it is costly. Nexus of Fate, however, was 7 to cast. This is 6. So this will hit the board, especially in the controlled colors. Creatures and Planeswalker spells you cast have affinity for artifacts, and affinity is for every artifact on the board, it reduces the cost for Planeswalkers or creatures by however many artifacts are on the board for the generic mana price. Still have to pay the colored mana. His +2 is he deals X damage to each opponent. Where X is the number of artifacts you control, you gain X life. So his +2 could fall flat, because he may not have artifacts on the board when he gets there. His -3, return target artifact card from your graveyard to your hand. Returning from graveyard to your hand is really nice. His -8, exile the top 10 cards of your library, put all artifact cards from among them into the battlefield. So you're going through 10 cards, you run this with Esper, you run this as a Super Friends Karn, Dovin, Teferi, Tezzeret deck, and whatever, fill in the blanks with the artifacts, you're going to be laughing. 4 artifacts on board, suddenly Karn is free to cast. That's insane. And the last card that I've got to talk about here today is Vivian's Arcbow. This deserves the right of being a legendary card. It's a legendary green colored artifact, 1 green, 1 generic, for X mana, tap it, discard a card. Look at the top X cards of your library. You may put a creature card with converted mana cost X or less from among them into the battlefield. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in random order. This thing is going to break Standard. There is very easy ways to untap artifacts right now. There's very easy ways for lands to be untapped. Wilderness Reclamation comes to mind. And card draw. You run this in a Seismic build and you can keep the card draw going. You can do this before and after, and before and after. Just keep pumping out creatures for a low mana. You start off low, ramp up high, It's in a ramp color. It's just going to make things problematic for these green creature heavy decks, which I welcome because it's different from the Esper control. This card, if you can get it to stick, will get around the Esper control decks because you're putting the card in the battlefield, you're not casting it. So because you're not casting it, it does make things even better. And of course, I did talk about it earlier in the video, but we do have Collected Company that was a couple years ago, became a very problematic card. The card has crept up to approximately the $25 mark. In Modern, it's still causing a problem in Modern. People call for its banning all the time. But, you know, honestly, the card does have its limitations. With Collected Company being a 4-mana instant, you look at the top 6 cards, put up to 2 creature cards with converted mana cost 3 or less into the battlefield and put the rest on the bottom in any order. So Vivian's Arcbow puts them all in random order. This puts them, you can put them in the way you want them. But when it comes down to it, the Arcbow is going to do things, and for it being only 2, it's going to make a splash in Standard. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm trying something a little different with not covering every spoiler out there, because there's stuff out there that people do want to discover for themselves. And I think just some perspective on certain cards is a good way to go. Anyway, if you like this video, please let me know down below. And, you know, give me the subscription or a like or a dislike. Let me know if I can make things better, if there was something else on the list coming forward, because there was only 83 cards spoiled at the time of me shooting this video, so this was my top 12 that I came across. There will be more cards, so let me know if there's other ones that I possibly don't have on this list that you want me to have a perspective on. Thank you for watching, and have yourselves a great day, and a special thanks to my patrons for the month of April. Going forward, I do still hope to grow the channel. Last I checked, I was 6 subs away, so hopefully we can hit that 250 mark before the next week or so. After that, I will be pushing forward to the 500 mark, and at 500, I think I may try and open something that you see on the shelf behind me. I haven't decided yet.